Hi everyone, my name is Anil Sedha. I'm the founder of Whistle Technologies and I'm here today with my latest episode of Tech Tomorrow. Today, I'm going to talk about AI inferencing, but before I get to that, I really want to get to a learning from one of the MBA classes that a stand up comedian shared who originally used to be an engineer and was a startup founder himself. So, before I get there, I want to mention that this particular story that I'm going to share has a huge learning capability for new professionals, new immigrants who are about to get into a role or are trying to grow into a role, or even experienced professionals who are trying to do a pivot or re-emerge stronger from what they've been doing for many years. So the story goes like this. In an MBA class, there was a professor who was very strict, and this particular stand-up comedian, he reached there on time. The classes would start at 7:30 a.m. in the morning, and he was very picky. You have to be there before 7:30 a.m. And he reached there on time, and the class was going on. And about 10 to 15 minutes later, two students show up. So instead of just allowing them to come take their seat, the professor questioned them, "Why are you late?" They started giving all types of excuses. It was cold. I didn't get the bus. We were trying to get through multiple ways of getting here. And the professor said, "Hold on. Go and get me tea at this time." Now, again, these students started giving excuses. It's 7:45 or so in the morning. It's cold. And this was in New Delhi. So he said, "It's cold out there. And we cannot go get tea right now. It will take some time before we can find it. We've tried." And the professor said, "Go and look for it." So these guys go spend about 10 minutes or so, come back, and they again give the same excuse. "We looked around, we couldn't find anything." So then the professor gives them this master class. He says, "Do you guys know there is a peon in our class in our school who takes care of all the cleaning and whatnot and attending to the students and the staff?" And they said yes. And he said that peon takes about 3,500 rupees. It doesn't matter whether you call it $3,500 or rupees, but he gave them a reference point. He said that peon takes about 3,500 rupees a month to do his job. And he gives all types of excuses. And you can ask him for something, and he'll say, "This is not available, that is not available, I'll do this later, that, whatever." And he said, if an employer hires you for a job and they expect to pay you 75,000 rupees, they would think twice if all they get is excuses. They can very easily hire this 3,500 rupee person with a salary of 3,500 rupee to give all the excuses in the world if all they expect is excuses. And if you really want to achieve something, you will not give the excuse and you'll get things done. People who get things done are successful for the most part. It's not easy to get things done, but you've got to have the motivation and the rigor to achieve it. And not everybody is as disciplined. But that was one particular reference point, and beyond that, everybody started to show up on time or they would go get tea. So the reason I'm sharing this particular masterclass from an MBA course is this is real world. None of us as professionals should be focused on excuses. And it's very convenient, easy to give those excuses, but we should be doers. We should be the ones. If we really want to achieve success, if we really want to grow, we have to be the ones who are actually doing things, who are actually achieving things. And occasionally you may run into a problem and you may even have to give an excuse, but you cannot be an excuse person. You have to be a capability person. You have to be a person who can execute, because that's all that matters in the industry. If you don't execute, if you're not a person who's successful in their initiatives, the job can easily go to someone who's less experienced and would not be willing to work as hard, or might be working hard but might be doing it for a lower salary. So that's the perfect segue into our next aspect of Tech Tomorrow podcast, which is AI inference. So For years in the startup industry, everybody's trying to find the next big thing, and then AI comes along, and everybody's about OpenAI, then Google Gemini, and then AWS, and this and that, whatever. Nvidia comes out with these massive chips, and everybody's talking about the future of what AI could be. Then this small company out of China comes out and does something very creative. DeepSeek. They say, you know what? We can do what everybody else is doing at a much, much, much lower cost. Guess what happens? All the stocks of these large AI companies and whatnot suddenly plunge. And this happened in January of this year. And then everybody's now focusing on web and app chatbots and whatnot. And suddenly there was a change. There was a fundamental shift in the thought process. Everybody used to think AI is a power hog, AI is a resource hog, AI is a capital hog, which means if you want to build a company like OpenAI, you know how many times they've come up, and Sam Altman has said, "Oh, I need these many billions of dollars to achieve what I need." I think I even read a story somewhere about $90 billion or whatever. But my point is, it's not that he's not capable of doing it or whatnot, but have those people found the right type of scenarios to achieve innovation in a practical sense? Because if every AI company or every organization wanting to build their own AI platform or an innovation project decided that they have to go there, are they really going to spend $90 billion or even $1 billion or even a few $100 million? Is that what AI development is really about? Is that what innovation is really about? No. So I want to get into some of those facts right now. So most recently, uh, DeepSeek disclosed that their cost and revenue data ratio hit a theoretical cost profit ratio of about 545% per day. Its actual revenue would be lower, but that showed a fundamental shift. What does that shift mean? So if you're looking at inference, the the way you actually run through your data sets, the way you actually build an AI platform using that data set, you have to understand what do you need in terms of resources. Now, if you go with the traditional way, and let's say you people pick NVIDIA chips or some other chips, I'm not going to pick on anybody. At the end of the day, there is no wrong way of doing things. There is just one more different way of doing things. And I'm just looking to share a fundamental shift in thinking more than anything else, because in North America, we need to be absolutely successful for our own benefit and the future benefit of our industry. And DeepSeek claimed that it spent less than $6 million on chips, which were used to train the model. And if you really look at it, less than $6 million on the hardware to train its AI. Now, what did they use? They used NVIDIA H800, much less powerful than what OpenAI or others are doing. And at the end of the day, if you really look at it from a practical standpoint, someone else developing their own AI could also do it. I'm going to tell you, Whistle is heavily invested in building our own Via platform, the autonomous architecture concept that we are working on. And there's no way we have that type of money to do things either. So, and I've got some information here. I've got some information on my other monitor, but I'm going to read something that I see in front of my eyes. This is a Reuters news post. What it specifically says that DeepSeek said in a GitHub post published on Saturday that assuming the cost of renting one H800 chip is $2 per hour, the total daily inference cost for its V3 and R1 models is only $87,000 and 80 roughly. In contrast, the theoretical daily revenue by the models, daily revenue that those models would generate is 562,000, leading a cost to profit ratio of 545%. In 1 year alone, this adds up to $200 million in revenue. 545%. What do most SaaS companies aim for? What are most AI companies aiming for? What is the general industry trend in the startup world or even in the business world here in North America? Or if you're pricing above 30%, you are a profitable company. Some 70% to 100% in margins, super successful. And then there are others who are rock stars, but they have a product based approach. Remember, there's a fundamental shift. A physical hardware product sometimes can give you margins of 200% to even 1,000%. But they're very niche, not having the same level of scale and not having that same level of potential either. But here, all of us have the capability to actually blow away our competitors if we just did something in a different way. When Whistle started its AI development, just prototyping even, we had nothing in terms of investment. We even today do not have any investment. We are 100% bootstrapped. But think of it this way. We achieved something with peanuts compared to the large behemoths who are $10 billion, $8 billion, and they still did not have those capabilities that we developed. So that requires a fundamental shift in your vision, in your thinking, in your development, everything. The people you have, you've got to absolutely have the right people. I'm going to switch over to my other screen and share something from here, which is primarily meant for growth and learning. So it's exactly, and I'm going to pick specific aspects of the AI inferencing. So because a lot of people have confusion around things, specifically professionals who are just starting up in AI and want to learn and do something different. But I want to talk about the opportunity why you need to do this. So an AI inference model works by training on a large data set. When the model is deployed, it is used to process new data, and then the model will generate output. In a traditional sense, if you talk about use cases, I'll give you a couple here. An AI model trained on images of, let's say, agricultural settings, they can help farmers identify weeds in unhealthy crops. And there's already a dime a dozen products out there doing this exact same thing. But it's a very practical use case, and it will be super successful even if there are multiple competitors. Another AI model is trained to recognize pedestrians, and then it will distinguish them from the other objects on the road. Now, why is this important? Because it allows you to have a reason, a reasoning concept, and then make predictions based on those concepts that will actually mimic human abilities. Is AI trained to replace humans? No. But there's a lot of augmentation that needs to happen and is happening. So, how does this help businesses? So, businesses could benefit from various different ways. They could optimize their models to lower their cost, because suddenly if you are spending huge costs on a manual process or a data driven process that uses conditional logic, for example, now you have a predictive model, it suddenly changes the entire scenario. And then this predictive scenario could forecast or infer a higher or a highly likely level of prediction to achieve the same objective. Remember this, a highly likely level of prediction of what could happen in the future that even a human being cannot think of today, because we are trained, even our own mind is trained to work in a certain way, and we have some superstars or geeks amongst ourselves who might do things differently and might be really high achievers. But in a general sense, most organizations think of it as a practical requirement. And they may not have these geeks sitting around and just doing that inference on various things. So the opportunity is huge out here. And that opportunity cost is what I'm after really. So when you're looking at why you should do this, so first, if you understand data, you can do a better deployment of the model. When you do a better deployment of the model, that knowledge will open up doors to new roles. Now, typically, those are data scientists, but you could also be an AI engineer. You could also be a machine learning ops person, which nowadays is very popular and in very much demand across the industry. But it's important to not just build the AI model, but also understand how that data flows and how that data flow optimization has to happen for inference in a production environment. One simple example, we all know about Waymo and other self-driving cars and so. Now these models were trained for years to actually drive on the road and observe things in real time. Once they learned from there, they became self-driving and they kept observing and self-correcting and self-learning. In fact, they are even more accurate in the bigger scheme of things, not in one or two instances. They are even more accurate than humans because they won't cut corners. They'll follow the process, they'll follow the rules and regulations. They have certain boundaries, at least for now, that have been set around them. So, when you are having that degree of knowledge to optimize those models, you become in high demand. And now most people will say, well, I'm just starting off. What do I know about AI? Everybody starts somewhere. Start somewhere, but start. Be the doer. Remember why I started with the MBA story. You can give plenty of excuses, but if you can give excuses, you will be on the sidelines in the future. If you are actually doing it, you will be one major contributor and will be successful. Another thing I want to touch on is real time decision making. So, AI inferencing often happens in real time, which means you have to understand how to optimize the system for low latency because you can't really have a slow response. Otherwise, how else would real time decision making work? But then you also have to be highly reliable because you cannot make the wrong decisions just because you're going fast. So, for new professionals, learning how real time systems work, even in a typical predictive maintenance concept, you've got to start learning that. So you've got to start researching that. You've got to start understanding that. How could you do fraud detection? How could you automate some capabilities of customer service real time so that when you reach out for achieving an objective in your existing organization or for a new organization, you are able to understand why and how real time performance will improve. What does it mean by reducing low latency? Is it just your network latency? Is it also your IOPS? Is it also your processing capabilities? Those are the type of things. What about the edge computing? What about cloud computing? Where is speed and accuracy accurate? Or where is it paramount? You have to understand those things. The third piece I'm going to talk about is automation and efficiency. So, AI inferencing can automate decision making processes. I've already said that, right? And I've also said that some of the previous models that have been tested reduce human errors significantly. But now, what happens to the on your daily tasks? So, a lot of professionals work in their daily routine. Let's take one very simple example: database administrators or analytics administrators or whatever. Plenty of routine tasks. Now, if you could automate that using DevOps, IT operations, cybersecurity, any field, you suddenly become a major contributor to your organization. Not only did you automate this, but you freed up your time to do some more high level intelligent work. It doesn't mean that when you automate things, you are suddenly sitting idle. That's the wrong understanding or pitfall to kind of get into. You want to achieve the next bigger frontier because if you don't let go of small or menial tasks, you can't really proceed on to the more complex abilities that you could yourself pitch forward. Now obviously that is with the understanding that you are interested in achieving newer better things, but then you may have automation, you may have accuracy, but if you don't have scale, you will not be able to deploy it at a much larger level for your organization, specifically many large enterprise organizations with thousands of users. And you have to understand how things would work at scale, either on the edge computing side cloud computing side or within the on-premise applications that you're using or in SaaS platforms that you're using. So understanding the scaling systems is a separate industry segment on its own. So those who say, I'm not a programmer, I don't understand Python, I don't understand other models, do you understand how to improve performance of systems? Do you understand or can you understand? Can you develop your skills how to build AI systems at scale? That's an industry in itself. And that will be super successful in the world ahead. I'll tell you this from personal example. When I started and where I am today, Whistle has gone through a very high, big transformative journey. We did a pivot in January of this year where we suddenly stopped going after the small use cases because that's the zone I was in before uh, working with one of the Fortune 500 clients. Once we worked with them, our eyes just opened up to doing bigger, better, much more important things. But we're very narrowly focused only in the space of communications, but communications is huge, huge. And Vasily is going to achieve some very big objectives. Most recently, we've been approached by another huge organization, another Fortune organization that I won't get into the details of. But then we also have a huge hospital talking to us for a research project. All of this is only because I'm focusing on achieving something. I'm focusing on actually solving a problem. So my question to you is, doesn't matter if you're a startup founder or not, who cares? Are you working in a role that requires you to help your employer, your business, your organization achieve one more thing better? Can you cut down their costs? Can you achieve productivity? Can you achieve efficiency? Can you achieve automation? Can you achieve scale? Can you help them grow? Many large organizations may not realize what they need also just because they have never thought through or done this exercise yet. But you are the person who can be the differentiator, and you are the person who can be the collaborator. So start collaborating with others, start learning one more thing a day, even small, and start doing things. Otherwise, you will have to go get tea, and all you'll be able to do is give excuses. So that's all I have to share today for Tech Tomorrow podcast. I hope this particular podcast was valuable for you. And if you have any questions or feedback to share, by all means, please do comment or reach out to me. More than happy to hear on any feedback that you may have to share. Thank you. Bye.